So lately, there's been a few things popping up about random versus block training. I've seen, a lot of arguments online. I know you've got a lot to add to this. So, what do you think is better, random or block training?
Yes,
Yeah,
because yeah, and it
yeah,
has to be that. It's like which is better, striking or grappling?
yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah, if we're going to ask such a general question, how can we possibly give a specific answer? Yeah, and
yeah,
I think people get so wrapped up in this internet binary choice.
mm,
It has to be this or this. Rather than I think I see the whole thing as an actual progression. You
mm,
know, I think starting somebody off doing random training, it's a lot of fun. You know, because you don't have the grind of putting reps in,
yeah,
but you're not going to develop the same actual skill, if you know
yeah,
what I mean, that you
yeah. With
will if you put the reps in first. I
yeah,
always see it as being use the blocked training, the repetitive training of of hitting a bag or hitting a pad or whatever you're doing, the reps, build up that skill, and then that will get you so far quite quickly. It will develop skill quite quickly, but as will be pointed out, it's not as applicable as it might want to be
yeah,
because you're throwing penalty kicks or you're doing tennis serves. It's all in your own time. It's
yeah,
all you're controlling the environment when you're going to throw the punch, when you're going to throw the kick, when you're going to do whatever. But it will build skill because it'll build that kind of muscle body connection, the
mm,
interconnectivity. You know where everything's meant to be. You get the body mechanics out of it, but they'll be in a sterile fashion.
yeah,
It's like doing the plank for core stability. Well, it is good, but you're in a stable position anyway.
yeah,
How does that translate over to when you're moving around on a surfboard?
yeah.
You know,
Not as much
where
as the
the
yeah,
yeah. So the block practice, I think, is immensely useful for initially getting that tool in some respect shaped to what it should be.
yeah,
But at that point, you leave it, and it's a bit like, our friend Bruce said, which Zen said that you use a boat to get across the river, but you don't then carry the boat around with you afterwards. Use it for what it's meant for. Once you have built that level of skill, then randomize the training and you never have to go back to it.
yeah,
Unless, in my opinion, a bit like tuning a car, a fault develops and you might want to go back and correct it a little bit, put a bit more effort in because the guy's elbow keeps flaring out when it should. You know what I mean?
yeah,
That
yeah,
sort of stuff.
yeah,
But then the focus should always be on randomized training then after that. Of course it should,
yeah,
obviously.
yeah,
You can't, you've got to interact with other people where you're not now controlling the environment. You're not controlling the time, the when, the where, and the how. You're having to select the right tool for the right target. You're having to select, respond to stimulus that you're getting. Look at how they changed the definition of agility, you
mm,
know. And what a lot of people used to call agility is now being redefined, and it's just called change of direction training because it's not actually agility anymore. Because I think the definition now is it's it's your change of direction in
in
response to
response. Yeah,
random stimuli.
yeah, yeah,
So the three cone drill that features that we did
yeah,
used to be called an agility drill, but now they've changed it. It's a change of direction drill because they've recognized how important it is that you have to be able to respond to random stimuli, pick the move, apply the move dynamically, on
yeah,
the go. Of
yeah,
course you do. Now, I don't know, you remember my foundation course, we did a lot of block practice in that, but not really, because in a day we might do 15 minutes of that. You've done a 400 drill,
yeah,
as we call it, which is very repetitive and it's skill building purely in a very sterile fashion. But it's not a lot of training, 15 minutes. And then for the rest of the day, it was all randomized, wasn't it?
yeah. You're taking
That
that
the guy
skill
in front
and
of you, yeah,
yeah,
the guy in front of you, you didn't know what pad he was going to put up. And I know that because I know that he didn't know what pad he was going to put up next because he's got the remit to provide you with a constantly presented target of some new description. That's randomized training
yeah,
or ecological dynamics, as they call it now in
mm,
the new terminology, you know.
sounds cool.
And But anybody that's ever done those 400 drills, like I say, they're not designed to be used in a fight. They're designed to sharpen a tool or to get a rough piece of iron into some basic shape. And then the rest of the training is the fine grinding of the blade. You know what I mean? The
Yeah, yeah,
with the final leather strap at the end. But you can't take that leather strap and apply it to a piece of iron. It doesn't
yeah.
work, in my opinion. And that's my approach. Um, there's all
Yeah,
kinds of training that you can put into that. I mean, I'm not a fan of anything that is purely sequence based. And by that I mean when you have a preset sequence and it's a flow drill, it's a pattern or whatever you're going to call it. Even with a partner, I still feel that you can turn up the intensity to 11, but you still know what's coming next.
yeah,
You're still
yeah,
not getting much out of that, in my opinion. It's still choreography. It's
yeah,
still a movie fight scene, to be quite honest. So when people call that, you see some offerings are very sequence based. That pretty much the entire session is you're learning little movie fight scenes.
yeah,
When a guy throws a punch like this, you do this, this, and this. You know, and then all you'll do is you'll go slowly, and then you build up the intensity, and you can appear to be going full out at the end of the day,
yeah.
but still, are you getting that much from that compared to what happens if he wasn't doing what you knew he was going to do?
Oh, yeah.
You know,
That's big in knife.
that's the
Like
thing.
I still remember back in the day, we'd put all the padded suits on. We'd be drilling, like a ice pick knife attack. Now we're going to take it up to the next level. Let's all pad up. But we're still doing the same attack. We still know it's
Exactly.
coming. And yeah, and that was one of the biggest catalysts for me changing the training is, yeah, it works really cool when it is like that, you know it's coming. Now let's make it,
Yeah,
dynamic.
that's it.
Now it
My
all goes to shit.
my thing there is you can turn that intensity up where it's fake intensity.
Yeah.
That's not the best word to use for
Mm.
pseudo intensity because you're just going faster, but you're
Yeah.
not having to make any more decisions.
No.
You're still doing. And you often see people, still waiting around for the shot, or the
Yeah.
guy, feeding an arm to somebody, or and there's a reason why you call it a feeder. You know what I mean? The
Yeah.
guy's
Yeah.
he's feeding you the move. He's like, that's a movie fight scene. I've never really liked that training, and I don't do any of that kind of training.
Yeah.
The only time I will put together any kind of combo is when we want to practice a movement from this position to that position, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
How to change how to get the body weight moving in a different direction, but it's not done for the same purpose, you know.
Yeah. Because I've
Um,
experienced this a lot lately. So I'm coaching the youngest age group in basketball where it has to be block training initially, and their ability to read the game, react, and make a decision is appalling. I have to sit there. We play games, and I walk on the court with them. And go, stop, stop, stop! Why did you do that? Why aren't you doing it? Like, so we point it out to them, and that's the thing too. I get it. Like at this age group, when someone's beginning, it needs to be block training as much as you can. But as soon as we go and play a game, the block training just goes out the window. It's a massive
got
thing
to.
I'm dealing with now. It's like, do we do more of this, more of that? But like the taco ad, why not both? We're doing a bit of
It's
both
got
and
to be.
trying to, yeah,
It's one of the most absurd things that the internet has ever come out with. It just makes people fall into a binary either or choice
yeah,
because everything's presented as is this or that, you know.
yeah,
And it's always going to be a mixture. It's always going to be a mixture of what you're going to do, but again, like, I will use a lot of block practice, but when I think about it myself, actually, it's not a lot because that particular drill we talked about is 15 minutes of grind, you
yeah,
know, where we very heavily focus using the deliberate practice, the Anders Ericsson deliberate practice kind of model,
yeah,
where you establish a pass fail criteria of a particular thing. Yeah, that's a hit, that's a miss. Then we do a lot of repetition of it, and you get constant feedback on every single rep, and you only count the ones that meet the pass criteria.
yeah,
So if you want 100 shots, that guy might end up throwing 200 just to get the 100 that were worth counting.
yeah,
And that will build skill possibly faster than anything out there. It's
yeah,
just like having a quality control department in your factory.
yeah,
That's all it is, really.
And
Well,
it's
that's only 15
motivating.
minutes. That's 15 minutes on that course out of an 8 hour day. And then the
Yeah,
other, I can't even do the maths, the other 7 hours and 45 minutes,
yeah,
it's all randomized.
yeah,
It's all figuring things out for yourself,
yeah,
where you're getting a random target, presented. So even though I say I do a lot of it, I don't do a lot of it.
yeah,
But the stuff that I do, I think it's a very good primer, is what I think. And I think it enhances the random training immensely,
yeah,
you know, and you will only revisit it when an obvious fault, you don't take your engine apart all the time and polish up components until there's a fault, you
yeah,
know, you do it when it's needed.
yeah,
Most of the time you'll be working on your driving, if you're working on your positioning on the road, or you'd be working on how you interact with the other vehicles. Occasionally you lift the hood,
yeah,
and you
yeah,
look at the components. And that's the way I view training, quite honestly. You know, um, I think a lot of the studies that are done on it are inherently flawed in a way, in that the subjects are all very cognizant and very intimately aware of the actual stuff that they've been trained on. They've already done that part,
yeah,
if you know what I mean.
yeah,
I
yeah.
think
Like the basketball example.
you're not
If,
getting
yeah,
people from the Amazonian rainforest who've never seen a basketball before, have you? You know what I
yeah,
mean? You're
nah,
getting kids who've played basketball since they've been this high.
yeah,
You're getting guys who can already hit a baseball.
yeah,
You're getting guys who can already shoot. You're not
yeah,
putting a gun down and a lot of ammo and a magazine in front of somebody and saying, "Figure it out, have fun." You know what I mean? You're not throwing the car keys at somebody and saying, "You'll make
drive.
mistakes, but you'll get it. You'll solve the problem in the end." It's like, no, no, come on. You know, I think you could do that, and somebody would figure it out. You know, I think 1,000 monkeys with a typewriter could end up typing out Shakespeare themselves, couldn't they? But I just think it's a shortcut that you should take to give somebody that tool in the box first,
Yeah, definitely.
and then I think that you're doing yourself a favor, because then when you do the random stuff, it gets even better. How many high stress scenario training sessions have we seen where it just turns into a flailing mess? And you think,
Yeah, yeah,
great, but that could be better.
yep,
I think the thing that people miss out is it's all intensity but no quality. You know, and again, why not both? Why
yeah,
does it have to be mutually exclusive?
yeah,
And that always got me. That did. It's like most of my arguments are, when people present me with a "what about this or that," I just use that glib answer, yes. you know,
yeah,
because it's too. Yeah. What can you say?
yeah. And it all ties in with skill acquisition and the phases they're at, and like you were saying, beginners versus experts or people that are autonomous with it, and yeah, yeah, it's
Yeah,
different
if you've
per
already
group.
if you've already got that basic skill and it's already performing quite well, then fine.
Yeah,
Don't lift the hood. Work on the driving.
yeah,
But if you're still throwing a punch like you're throwing a tennis ball, and hitting with the little finger of your hand when you're throwing it, then let's not run that random drill just yet. Let's work on that, so at least you're going to hit with the right part of your hand. You know
yeah,
what I mean? And then you can't decry that and say no, no, it should all be randomized training. Because come on, you
yeah,
know, and I think a lot of the arguments are not taking into context the pre-training that some people have,
yeah.
and it can bias the results.
Oh, for sure, for sure. And that's
Bias the
like
results.
they should come to my basketball training sessions with these young girls. Like today, we had a good win, 25-3, but it should have been 50-3 because they missed so many shots from right in front. Like anyone could get these shots. Like I'm talking unforgivable. They missed about 20 of those shots, and that's where I start to think that yeah, we need more block. Like it has to be more block because I don't know what's going on there. Like it's terrible. And then I guess the game is random and it just falls to shit, falls apart. So I just trying to get that balance right, as you said, is just
But again, though,
tough.
we fall back to then, if you're doing sequence training like almost exclusively, then that's a problem in
Yep.
my respect. That's a problem. You've got to, you can make some crazy kind of padded man attacker drill where, you can go full out on this padded man who's coming at you. But a lot of that would, the compromise there is like, how much of a threat is he to you? If you know what I mean. Is he just a
Yeah,
walking heavy bag for you? And what about if he was as capable as fighting as you are,
yeah,
and as allowed as you are, if it really was? I mean, I've heard people talk about doing force on force and they have malevolent intent, and then you see them doing the pre-briefing about how hard you're meant to hit before it becomes a dick move. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah,
And
yeah,
what you're not allowed to do. And it's like, oh, come on. It's like, if you're going to use the word, let's see it.
yeah,
Let's really have a guy there who's trying to beat you.
yeah.
Now again, that shouldn't be all the time, every time. There's a time and a place for that, and it's not all the time for
No,
sure. It's
definitely not.
too destructive, but it should be there.
Oh yeah,
One of my things is, say, if you talk about, say, knife defense, whatever you're going to call it, I call it management, because I believe in managing the problems rather than trying to fix the problem, because
yeah,
I think it's a far better expectation. But if the force on force isn't full out at some point, if the guy's not really moving as fast as he can, and he's not really going as hard as he can, I got a feeling there that everything you've done in the preceding hours, days, or whatever of that particular course is kind of a waste of time,
yeah.
because
Agree.
you've just built a new saucepan, but you can't put hot water in it because it'll
Mm.
probably dissolve.
Yeah, yeah,
So we put cold water in it, and then we prove that the saucepan works. No, because a real saucepan needs to be able to put hot water in it.
yeah.
It's that kind of mentality. So I just feel it's got to be there.
It's
And
fraudulent. It's fraudulent. If you haven't taken it there, how can you advise people if you've never been in there? You know what I mean?
well,
Like I just,
yeah, yeah, you just invented a bucket that won't hold water, haven't you?
yeah,
To be quite
yeah,
honest, whatever analogy we use, I don't know why I keep going to buckets and water and saucepans and stuff like that, but you know, whatever analogy we use, if you're not going to apply the same heat that you would, you're not testing the product, you
yeah,
know, and a lot of it's safety, because how
yeah,
hard is it to, it's as a knife attacker, say for instance, but you're going to use down this same example. I can fully demonstrate a knife attack on you, full speed, full power. It's easy, but there are all kinds of safety constraints that stop you from responding as you possibly could.
yeah,
You can't stick your thumb in my eye. You can't punch me in the head as hard as you can. You can't kick me in the balls. You end up having to be forced into certain tactical options
yeah,
because of safety.
yeah,
So I just try and take that away and make it as safe as possible by having the best protective gear, etc., etc., etc. And I think we get a far better option from that. You
yeah.
know,
Because I must admit the live drill, I was taken aback by the fact that number one, I didn't have gloves on.
yeah,
That was like a big eye opener, and number two, no shin pads. So I'm thinking, man, if any of this lands or connects, like I was worried about my hands first of all. Like so it did add that fear element more so than, other training I've
uh-huh.
done, like so much more. And yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
and it's difficult.
The,
I think that's one of the biggest challenges, especially when you have people that have been training at a decent level for a long period of time, is how to invoke that response. It's virtually impossible with a lot of people.
yeah, my whole genesis of that, the whole kind of development with that was you could put boxing gloves on you, but then
Yeah,
for the rest for the course before that we were doing palm strikes, but now all of a sudden we're doing fist strikes. So that would change. I'm not saying one is better than the other, but if we've been training one thing, we should test that one thing. You know,
yeah,
um, and then it was like, yeah, but we're also using elbows. So how do I, can I source some elbow pads that are good, that to take the shock? And then we're doing this. So rather than trying to pad all the weapons, I just thought I'll just pad the targets,
yeah,
you know. And one of the big things there is, as you've seen, the padding is on the head, the neck, and the groin. There's none on the body,
yeah,
and there's none on the legs. There's nowhere else, because the moment you an armor on somebody, it becomes a legitimate target, doesn't it? So
yeah,
if you wore a torso protector, I'm then giving somebody the green light that it must be a target because we've put a protector on it.
yeah,
But what good is punching people in the chest?
yeah.
those suits that you see, why have they got shoulder protection? It's like, what
Yeah.
is that a viable target now, hitting the shoulder? I mean, obviously, yeah, it could be for incidental stuff. I understand that, but what people don't realize is a lot of those suits were designed for baton training, for striking people with batons where you're aiming at muscle groups to kind of cause muscular kind of dysfunction and stuff like that, motor
Yeah.
dysfunction. But
Yep.
yeah, there's a reason why I only put head, neck, groin targets on, because they're the only things worth hitting.
Yeah.
And many people will say, well, body shots are very good. And, well, they are, yeah, but when you've got time to develop them, there's not that many real fights get stopped with body shots, to be quite honest.
No,
You
and
know,
we're inherently headhunters too. So in real
well, yeah,
fights.
but yeah, yeah, to drop people with body shots, there are some amazingly skilled fighters out there that do it, but usually they set the guy up for that big body shot, which is
Yeah.
time that you might not have in that scenario.
Yeah.
And also, if you're, you know, 60 kilos, have you got the mass? Because, you're talking about a lot of soft tissue displacement to make a body shot work properly.
Yeah.
You're hitting that rib that hits that organ, which causes all that kind of shock to go through the body. You need a certain amount of power to do that, you know, and a lot of people just don't have that power. They do when they
Yeah.
hit a bag, but then they control the environment, so
Yeah.
it's a penalty shot. But all of a sudden, and when it's a randomized shot and you haven't got that level of preparation, people's abilities will drop to what, half?
Yeah.
Managing your expectations, yours will, mine will, everybody's will. Look at how hard a pro Muay Thai fighter will kick a bag.
Mm.
Nobody could survive that kick.
No.
If he had a clean shot on somebody, you're talking about serious trauma. But
Hey,
why doesn't it work out that way in the ring? And he's a
yeah.
pro.
Yeah.
We all, but as a
Good point.
pro, he accepts that. And that's why he throws bunches of 10, not just one.
Yeah.
Like the amateur throws one huge shot and goes, that should be enough for anybody, and
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, good luck with that, pal. Yeah, you're going to need a lot more than that. There's a reason why magazines on guns, it's a big selling point.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, again, force on force. If you're not putting that level of intensity in there, what kind of force is it against what kind of force?
Yeah.
Are you being a bit generous with that terminology there?
Yeah.
You know, yeah. In my opinion, you've got to give that guy free play, or you're not really going to test the product.
No, not at all.
And if you said, oh well, we've only ever tested it to 50%,
50s.
70%, come
Yeah.
on, man, come on,
Yeah.
find me a real guy that's only going to come at you 50%. It's not
Yeah.
tested. It's not tested. You've got a safety line there, and you don't know if it'll take your weight.
Yeah.
There's a thing about that, isn't there? It's how many analogies can we pull out with? It's just a bad idea,
Yeah.
and I think you're probably mis-selling your own product, because your stuff might work. It might be fucking great. So test it,
Yeah.
prove it works. Don't just say, "Oh, trust me."
Yeah.
And it might just be a case of people haven't really used the imagination to think, how could we test this properly because of safety?
Yeah.
Well, spend a bit of money, get the right gear, and it works.
Yeah.
I don't really teach anything ostensibly different to anybody else when it comes to that realm. Say knife defense, for instance.
Yeah.
It's pretty much, it's been established that that's the way you throw a ball. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
nothing new out there. But I just test mine probably harder than they do.
Yeah.
So I know mine works.
Yeah.
That's the thing. And my guys and girls have been exposed to that level of violence. Okay. So I think people are doing themselves a disservice. I think their
Yeah.
material is probably better than they think it is,
Yep.
or the material is probably better than other people will accuse it of being. And in reality, it's pretty good, but they've just never tested it, and they should, you
Yeah.
know. So if anybody
That,
wants advice on how they can test it, come see me. I'll tell you.
yeah.
I'll point
And
you at all the products I use, and it's all there. It's all available.
yeah. And that's where going back to like season 1 and 2, people's perceptions of the shank tank, sitting there thinking, like, really? Like you train knife defense and you haven't done this? Like we take it much further than what it looks like. And then even, Mike, when he said, "Oh, I've done all the courses and nothing's this hard," I was that was one that hit home to me. I was like,
Yeah. What
really?
course have you
Like
done?
this was probably 70% to what we do. And if you've done all those courses and they haven't taken it there, you should not listen to those people because
But that's like saying that we've done I've sparred, but never full contact.
Yeah.
Well, okay. I'm not saying you should do it all the time, full contact. And to be
No.
quite honest, rarely really full contact.
Yeah.
But come on, you know what I mean?
At least
It's
once. At least. That's what I say to my guys. At least once a month, we're going to do this. You know. And even it depends too who they are and whatnot. You know, sometimes we've done a little bit more, but someone in that school, institution, whatever, needs to be doing that at least to some extent. And I don't understand that, and people that don't, I just view as a fraud. You know,
I would say that the only thing really, if I was gonna, compare what I do to other people's, is I just think I just test mine a bit harder. That's
yeah,
all really,
same. Yep.
to be quite honest. And one thing I'll do is that I think some people maybe miss out on this is the first thing I design for a course is the testing. I design the
Yeah.
test first. I
Yep.
look at and I base the test on a fight. So I look at
Yeah.
what happens in a fight. Well, it's hugely dynamic. It's people moving really fast. They're hitting you really hard, and they're doing anything they want and whatever. The situation. So I'll try and replicate that as near as I can, and I work back from there and develop the course to address it. So I just look at the question first,
Yeah.
and the fight is the question. It's the problem, and then I work backwards to design the solution for it.
Yeah.
Rather than I think other people look at courses, it seems to me anyway, I can't speak for them obviously, that I want to teach this, I want to teach this, and they have a list of things they want to teach on the course.
Yep.
And then what they're looking at, I think then they might design a test then to make the stuff look like it works. You know, I just figure out the hardest, most horrible testing we can do, you know,
Yeah.
like with that live drill. So if people don't know what we're talking about there, it's the unarmed force on force that I will do on some of the courses. And basically everything is allowed. You can hit as hard as you want, wherever you want. There is, you know, some high speed armor on people. And the only constraint to it is there's a time limit. You know, you're always working from a positional disadvantage. So symbolically, we'll start people on the floor, but it is symbolically. It
Yeah.
could be pushed into a sofa, it could be in a car, whatever. So you're always working from a position of disadvantage rather than a ready position.
Yep.
And there's a physical trigger rather than an audio or a go or a thumbs up, whatever.
Yeah.
So you're always getting shoved. You start with your eyes closed, maybe, and then you're in a fight, and it's all on.
Yep.
And you're usually clashing together as well,
Yep.
because that's as near to a fight as I can get.
Yeah.
Because it's more of a fight sometimes than some of the fights I've actually had, if you know what
Yeah.
I mean.
Yep.
And if we design that first, we think, okay, to be honest now, what will work in that situation? And that will
Yeah.
keep us honest then when we redesign the course then, and what can we have in the course, what can't we have in the course? The
Yep.
reason why I don't have that many spinning back kicks in the course,
Yeah. Yeah.
because the testing would just destroy it. So it's like, yeah, we've just proven that wouldn't be viable, you know.
Yeah.
And I think if you do that first, it'd keep people a lot more honest. Design the force on force first. That's the jewel in the crown,
Yeah.
you know, because whatever product you make, if it fails on the quality testing, you don't let it leave the factory.
Yep.
It doesn't matter how good it looks on the conveyor on the production line. If you take that engine manifold and put pressure through it and it blows, you don't sell it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So without that quality control set quite high, what you're selling? You're selling garbage.
Yep.
If you know what I mean. Or you're selling ornaments, but they're not going to do anything. If you're selling something that's meant to perform under pressure, you've got to put pressure on it.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, if somebody ever did that the shank tank, and that was the hardest they've ever done anything, it's like, well, you're supposed to be an industry professional, and this is your job. Why have you never done this before?
Yeah.
You know, come on.
Yeah, I remember 20 years ago, we were just hacks doing it ourselves. We worked
Everybody
it,
is.
we worked it out then. We were just hacks that we're like, you know what? This doesn't look like a prison. Let's up it. Let's up it, you know? And back then, some of the guys I trained with were just not the sharpest tools in the shed, but they knew to have a go. Like I can't understand that you have
Well, the
this.
funny thing is, though,
polished course.
Let's
Yeah.
admit, there's plenty of guys out there doing that. There's plenty of guys
Yeah.
in the garage, in the next half an hour, going to be knocking lumps off each other,
Yeah. Yeah.
and fair play to them as well.
Yeah.
On I know, we all did that. I think just taking that to the next level, though, when you make it really work, when you take away, if it's all intensity but no quality, that's a problem,
Yeah.
to be honest. It's like if it's all quality but no intensity,
Yeah.
it's fantastic. You know what I mean? But again, why does it have to be or? It should
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
both. You
Both.
need both. You
Yeah.
need absolutely both. Yeah. Yeah.
100%.
Um, but so there's plenty of guys that they do it the right way. I just think they need to develop it a bit to make it more useful, make it more worthwhile.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah.
Just shape it a little bit. That's all I did.
Yeah.
That's the way I started off as well. Me and get you guys in your garage going a bit harder than you'd go down at karate
Yeah.
because you don't have the guy walking around with a black belt on now telling you to calm down. It's
Yeah.
just you and your mates knocking the shit out of each other,
Yeah.
or a bunch of soldiers that don't quite know when to say no, when to stop. It's that
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
thing. And all you do is you just refine it, don't you? You evolve it is what you
Yeah.
do, and you end up with the drills that say I'm teaching now my courses. They're the same, just a bit more refined.
Yeah.
You cancel out the things that it's fun but doesn't achieve anything, and you bring more things in that are ticking the right boxes.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. 100%.